Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Abbas Malik and the instructor of your web development course here. Uh, if you have not subscribed the channel, then please subscribe it so that you can get the notification for the new videos in that lecture series. So we finish our last lecture at this point where we are using the core HTTP library or the package which is available in the Node.js to implement a web server. So we can using the HTTP dot create server application server method. We can create a method inside it, and then we also have specify and what you can say that specify uh, a method which can handle all the requests which come to that server, and then we can identify those requests based on the URL which is there in the, and then we can also need to look at the type of the request. We have different type of the HTTP request, so what type of request it is, and then based on the URL and the type of the request we can process that request in a different way. So this is the one way to implement a web server, and of course we can do only using the Node.js. We can implement that whole web server using the HTTP module, and then we don't need another external or other package or the library. But definitely, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are experts who has created those packages for us so that we can easily develop our web application rather than concentrating on how we are going to implement that web request using the HTTP module from the Node.js. So definitely, this is reinventing the wheel is not a good idea. So out there are a lot of different frameworks or the libraries or the packages which exist, which can help us to build that web application or the web servers. So the some of them are like Express, Kova, and Meteor. So the Express is one of the most used. So if it is the most used, there will be some advantages. It is highly so. What are those? So let's see that we are going to. So it is a lightweight and adaptable, easy development. It is a very well documented. You can find a lot of different type of the tutorials, and it also has its own documentation that can help you to understand that package itself. We can generate HTML package pages dynamically. We can use the model view controller design patterns in with using it, and then of course it's an event driven nature. Event driven nature mean that whenever there's an HTTP request comes in, we look based on its type and the URL. It is an event in the system, and accordingly we can respond to that specific request. So because we are working on the all these advantages help us to decide that Express.js, that is the package that we are going to use in this course to implement a web application or the web server. The next thing, because we are talking about the hypertext transfer protocols, so just a recall, in the hypertext transfer protocol, it is a stateless protocol. It does not maintain the state of the communication between the client and server unless and until we use the session, an extra layer of the on the server sides, which so that it can remember which specific client has how what request is sent. So that is a different scenario, but it by default it's a stateless protocol. What happened in that protocol? The client open a connection to the server, so it becomes a dedicated connection between two computers. One is a client, the other one is a server. The client send an HTTP request to the server. Server receives that particular request and process that request. I mean, if I need to do some processing, it need to read some data, I need to update some data, I do all the things, process that request, and then it can send back a response to the client that it has successfully done what the client is asked for, or it is there's some problem. So it can send back response to the client, and once the that communication has been completed, the connection is closed between the client and the server. So this is the simple workflow that happen in the HTTP protocol. So we have a client, and then client is using the HTTP to communicate. Server is a program which is running on a different computer, and in our case, it will be running on a same computer, and the client will be our browser or maybe another application that we will be using. And then client send a request, and then server responds back to the client. Okay, so we have representational state transfer or REST APIs. We can design that one, and then representation state transfer. Actually, what you can say that inside the server or behind the server, actually you can say that we have the data in different forms. We have different informations. Maybe data is coming from the relational database management system like Oracle or MySQL, Postgres. It can come from a file. File could be an XML file or the Excel file or the Word file or a text file. I mean, data can be can data can be come from different type of sources, and what the server do, it will receive that data from different type of sources, convert that into a JSON format, and send it back to the client. So that is the representation state transfer, or the REST protocol. And then we on the data we can have different type of the operations. We can create a new data, we can read the data, we can update the data, or we can delete the data. These are the CRUD operations that we can perform on the data. So based on this, we can have the other thing that is very important here is the URL, or the address that on which we want to send that request. So first of all, it is telling me that it is a hypertext transfer protocol. The next thing is the domain. Domain is kind of a root thing. And then we are telling we are adding more informations about that URL slash CCIS slash data slash students. So we want to access students from the CCIS college. So that is another interpretation of that URL. So URL and the type it will help us to identify that request for which specific data or what that server need to perform. So for HTTP methods, for read we have a get method, for the create we have a post method, for the update we have a put method, and then for delete we have a delete method. There are some other HTTP methods which are exist in the protocol that we can use, but definitely they are not related to these CRUD operations: read, create, update, create, read, update, and delete. Okay, so they are not belong to that one, but of course they are exist, and then maybe in some other course or some other place we can discuss about that when we talk about the HTTP methods in detail. So first of all, we have a request, HTTP request and HTTP response. So these are the two different objects, you can say that. And inside that request object, we also need to tell that this request is actually a get type of a request, and then on which specific, I mean, here we are telling that this is the type of the request and this is the URL on which we want to send that request. So type of the request and the URL will help this server to identify what is the purpose of that request, and if that request has been implemented, then it can send back a response. Okay, so what happened here, that then that server is actually receive that request with that specific type and the URL, and then it will process that request. For example, it need to read the information from a specific database table, and then now you can see that this table is actually contains some informations about the student's ID and the name information, and then it will send me back an array of the informations of which contain all the data. So the response is filled with that, and that response has been sent back to the client. We can also read the data using its ID value rather than the reading all. So first of all, what is that in that request? In that request, we are telling it is a GET request, type of a request. Then we have a URL, including the ID value here. Okay. And then this request is sent to the server. Server receive that request and see that there is a ID value. It means other than reading all the records, it only need to read one record. So it read that one record from the database table or maybe some file, whatever that source of data is, and then send it back to the client. Okay. So this is another way to implement. Then we can say we want to update some specific record. When we want to update a record, okay. So first of all, it is a put request. Number one thing, type of the request. Then we have a URL slash data slash students, and then we also provide the ID value, which specific record we want to update. But when we talk about the update, we also need to provide some extra information inside this request part so that the new data that we want to update, or the updated information that we want to update inside the server. So we need to provide the body of the data. We call it a body. Okay, body of the request. So body of the HTTP request, and that will go to the server as well, including this request. The whole request is actually going to the server. Server receive it and then look at, based on the type and based on the URL, it identify what it needs to do, what how it is going to process that request, and then it will go into that one and then change the name of that specific student with the ID value 1 and with this new value. So this new value is actually has been updated here. The next thing is delete again the type of the request. We specify the type of the request, the URL, and this is the ID value whose record we want to delete. So, and then we can say that the result is equal to success. We can also simply say that true result, true Boolean value. Whenever there is a result true, it means that we have successfully deleted that specific record from our database table. And then we also have add part. In the add part, first thing in the request is the type of the request. It is a post request, the URL. And then because we want to add a new record, we also need to provide the name information or the data about that we want to add or create a new data inside the server. So this, again, this whole request, including the type of the request, including the URL and the body of the method which contain the data information, it will send to the server. Server receive that one based on the type, based on the URL. It will understand or identify that which specific request has been sent to the server, and the server is going to perform that operation and add a new record inside the database source or data source. So these are, I mean, some examples of the HTTP request and responses. Now, the how we can start working, how we can create that thing. So first thing is that we need to create a code example folder and open this folder inside the VS Code. So we, how we can just simply do that, we can open the VS Code. Inside the VS Code, I say open a folder, and then remember that we want to do here, and then we are in the 1 p.m. and here, well, actually it is already exists, so let me remove that thing, you know. So what I will do, I will just say code example. Let me copy this thing here, create a new folder, copy that one there, and then we can just do that and select that folder. Right now, this folder is empty. There is nothing inside. Now, what do I need to do? I need to run that command here, npm init. So this command is actually initiate or initialize our web service project. So I say that I want to open the terminal, and inside the terminal, I want to run npm init dash y or dash yes. I mean, it's up to you. You want to run this command or you want to run the was yes command, or even you can just remove that dash y or dash yes flag. When you do that, I mean, if you say that npm init only, then it will start asking you the question. So we say, what is the package name? I say, what you can say that first web app web app. Okay, this is the first web app. What is the version of that? 1.0.0. Okay. Description. This is the first test for developing web app using Express package slash library. Okay. Then do you want to have any entry point? So entry point, no, by default is index.js. So it is a file in which we are going to implement. We can write our code. So we can give it any name. For example, app.js or my app.js. So let me, so we'll say my app.js. Git repository. We don't have a Git repository. We can say that web service, the keywords, web service. Then we have the Node.js, then we have Express.js, what else? HTTP request response. So, I mean, we are, who is the author? Abbas Malik is the author. Do we have any license? By default value is the ISC, so we stick to that one. Type of the command that you want to add over there. So yes, it is okay for me. And now if you look at that, it has actually created that file for me. And if you look at that, the keyword that we put it over there, they are there. and then it also have the script part. They also have the name, version, description, and so on. So it's based on our information or the default values. We can, if you say npm init dash y or yes, then it will using the default value. Actually, it will create that file for me. The next thing that I need to do, or we need to do, is to install that specific package. Okay, so I can come down here in my, and I say clear. This is, again, this is a bash terminal, and in the bash terminal we can run the command like Linux or the Mac. So I'm more comfortable running those commands, so that's why I have. Otherwise, you can use, because it is a window environment. In the window environment, you have a command prompt. So either is a command prompt or either is a bash. So of course, in the command prompt, you cannot give the clear state command over there. But here I need to run the install that packages Express. Okay. So what did happen here? It's tell me in the package.json that we have installed Express library inside this project. Okay. So this is another thing. The next thing that is, I want to install another dev dependency, which is in node mon. Okay. And then what is the purpose? I will explain you a little bit later when we start developing running our program. So we need to say npm I dash capital D. It is a flag that telling man it is a telling that system is, it is a the dev dependency, and when you do that, actually it will add this information inside the package.json file as well. As you can see that we have dev dependencies, and the under the dev dependencies we have this. So we can come down here, we can just change this dev test to the dev name, changing the name of the script, that is a dev script now. And then what we want to run, when we want to run the script, I say node mon, and I say my app.js. This is the file that we are going to create in this project folder here. So I will say yes, my app.js, and then I save it. And now what I need to do here is that I need to create a new file here in this. I say my app.js, and then we need to import. For example, I say express is equal to require is the keyword to import the library, and then we say express, we want to install import that express for us. Then we say constant, we say web app, or we can say app, or we can say my app. Again, this is the name of the variable, so you can select. I will stick to this web app, and okay, and then we can say it is using the express library that we have just imported. We are going to create that web app. Okay, so if we just go back here, we need to change that script. We have already done all that thing. Then in the express we have the documentation. The documentation part will explain us how we can use the express to build the web applications. But there are four different main objects which has been implemented inside the express. The application, this application we have just created here, this application that we have just created. So that is a web application. Then we also have HTTP request object. We also have a HTTP response object. Then we also have a router. A router is something, what you can say, an object will help us to identify the specific request, the type of the HTTP request which coming in, and then on which specific URL this request has been sent. And based on these identifications, how we are going to, how our server program is going to handle that request. So router is helping on that specific front. So we have imported that Express. We have created that application as well. So now what we need to do, we need to implement the different type of request. So we have the get request, post request, put request, and delete request. In the web Express, they have implemented the same name: get method, post method, put method, and delete method. And all these methods are actually using two different parameters. The first parameter is actually the route. Route means the URL. Of course, the name of the method will decide that it is the which type of HTTP request is coming in. Is the post or the put or the get, and then the URL will help us to identify which specific URL for that request has been sent. And then we also need to specify the method which is going to handle. So we type of the request, the URL, and then the handler method which is going to process that request and send back the response or process to the client. Okay, so all of these methods have the same parameters. URL, which help us to identify for which URL or which address that request has been sent, and then the handler function we need to provide. So we can write that handler function in different ways. And here is an example of this method. Here I am using the lambda notation, arrow notation, so specify that method, but we can also use the function. So let me implement that thing here. So we can say the method that we have, the web app dot get, and then I can say that this will be for a root URL, and then I can say I can write something like this. And the other thing that this method will be receive two parameters in from when they are being executed automatically. Request is a HTTP request URL. I can give any name, it is a request to respond. These are the name of the variables. So we can say REQ, RES, request or response. These are the variable name. But first parameter is always the HTTP request object. And the second parameter is always the response object. So here I say response dot send. I want to send back to the client a specific information. Welcome to Node.js web app. Okay, web app developing using Express. Okay, so we are just sending back that response. Then we can also say we also have a get request, and then we say slash root and test, and then we, rather than using the lambda notation or the arrow function notation, we use the function uh, function, and then this function is also going to receive the request and response objects, and then we, rather than using, we can save this, and then here I can say response dot, not request, response dot send, and then we can send those information. For example, I say it is an h1, and then I also need to close that h1, and then here I say that this is a test request on slash on test URL. Okay. Okay, so we have that. So we have implemented these two requests. The type of the request is a get, and then we have test. Let me implement one more thing here, like web app dot uh, post, and then I say slash post, and then we can say that is a post type of request, and then we also have the request comma response objects. Again, I'm trying to use the arrow function to specify. Again, you can specify whichever method. I prefer that arrow function, but if you prefer to write the function like this, no problem, you can do that. We can say response dot send. I want to send back, and then let me copy this part here, and then I can put it over there. This is our post request, post request on the post URL. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure it out. And the next thing that I want to do, that I want to start that server. I want to create that. Once we have implemented, we need to start that server to listen on a specific port number. So we can give that port number anything which is above 3000, so 3000, 3001, 3002, 3030, 31, 347, 5000, 4500, 4520. So whatever that you want to use, you can use it. If that port is free, it is not being used by any other program, then our server is going to execute it on that one. Otherwise, it will not. Okay, number one thing. So what I need to do, I need to use the web app dot we want to listen. And then if I just give 3030, for example, and I did not give that second part is optional. it is a method which is we are going to give here. When it is when we are listening, then it will also execute this method to and to show something on the print. But if I don't do that, it's still going to work. So how I can what you can say that how I can run the command, run this my app, so I can use the, just like the last lecture, we can use the node. What is happening? Time to time, this terminal is not working, so let me start a new terminal, and then I say node, and then I say my app.js. When I started, so now this server is actually running. And what is the proof of that one? I can, what you can say that I can open my browser, and inside the browser, what I why not do, I say localhost colon 3000, and now you can see that I don't want to save it. So now you can see that the message is coming from the server, and if I just try to put it up and put it down there, so make it a little bit up so that you can see. So it's actually being coming from this one, and this is response is coming back to the client. So if you look at this one slash test, so what I need to do here, I just put a slash and then we have a plus test. So when you don't give anything, just give the name of the domain, then actually it is a root which is going to respond. And then if it is like test, so now you can say this is a test request. And if I even if I just say that post, now the problem is that using this method where we are typing a URL inside the browser, it always send a get request to the server. Okay. And then because we have implemented a post request, not a get request, so that's why this function is not. So it is the system is saying that there is no such request, get request has been implemented. But if I just change this post to get and then save it, and then I can just try test it. But why I cannot test it? Because I have changed my code after running our program. So what I need to do, I need to bring my cursor here in the terminal, press Control C to stop that server and rerun that server again so that I can test that specific new changes inside my code. When I do that, so now you can see that it is not a post request, it is a get request. So again, if I make a changes inside my port, inside my code and try to test it again, it is not going to work. What I need to do, I need to stop the server and then rerun the program again. So let me add that message as well so that I know what is going on in that server. So I can just say that, so I can say console.log, and then I am some that server is running on port 3030, and then we also say that to stop server, press Control plus C. Okay. So now what I need to do, I need to stop that server, rerun that server again, and now you can see that it is actually printing me this message on the console or on the terminal as well. Okay, so this is one thing as well. And now if I just try to do that, now you can see that it is giving me the get request. So now do we have if we want to implement a complete server with different type of requests, we need another software rather than the browser, another client which can send different type of requests to the server. For that purpose, we have different type of software available. But later in the next video, I will explain you we can use the Postman, and we're one of the most used HTTP request senders, so the tester, and that software is available. Okay, so this is so let me quickly make it like that. Okay, so we have implemented these things. Now the next thing, of course, we need to run the core node, and then we can send back different type of the data. So we have implemented these things. We can also say that web app dot get, and then here I say the URL is slash array, and then I can send back anything, request and response, and then we have the function which is going to be used. So I say response dot send dot not send, And then here I will send what you can say that an array. So array could be of the, we can create the array like this, 1 comma 2 comma 3, then I say true, then I say false, then I create another the object, and inside the object we have a name, for example Abbas. Again, this should be a string. And then I can also have the for example teacher, and then it should be a true. So let me save it. So when I save it, so you can see that this is but the point is that what I need to do, I need to stop that server again. Hmm. I press Control C while I am inside the terminal, and then I can stop the server and I can run the server again. So I can run that server again using that node myapp.js. But rather than using the node myapp.js, I want to run this script. Where is the script? Do we have a script here? Yes. So I want to run that script, dev node myapp.js, and that will make our life easier. How we can do run that command? So we npm run. We want to run some script which are available in the package.js, and which name of the package script is dev. So if you look at that here, it is a dev package. So we want dev script we want to run. So it will actually run this command for me automatically. Then I press enter. When not here, I here I want to press enter. So now you can see that using the node mon utility, it is starting my server. And now if I just save it, now you can see that it is automatically restarted my server. So I don't need to come down here, Control C, and restart my application, and I can test the things. So let me go quickly again, putting this thing here and here, and then I will just try to make it like that. And then here I can test all those things, slash test slash post. And then the next thing that we have implemented is a slash array. Okay. So it say that request.send. Did we use? Yes, we have used the request.send. Now look at that. It is giving me an error message. So I say respond. And now look at that. As soon as I save it, it restarted my server. And if I just come back here, send back, it is giving me back the answers properly. So this is what you can say that how we can this node modularity make our life easier while we are developing the things. Okay. So this is we can send back Boolean value web app dot get, and then we can say that slash boolean, and then here I can give the request comma response objects, and then we can say that response dot send, we want to send back the boolean value, for example true. Okay. And now I don't need to come down here, stop my server again, and I just save the information inside, make the changes inside the myapp.js and save it, and then I can simply check that one. So when you check it, so you can see that it is giving me true value. If I say change, save it, and then rerun again, so now I'm getting the false value. So I can send back, even I can send back the JSON values, JSON data that get, and then we can say slash JSON. And JSON is actually what you can say that we have the request and response objects, and we are going to send back using the response object, not request, response dot send. We are going to send back some informations. So inside the JSON is more like whenever we say that it should be something like a object, and then it has key value pairs. The key is always a string, and so for example I say name, and then I give the value, for example Abbas, and then I can say that age, and then age is 46. Okay, and then we can say that department, and that department is actually is, and then we can say that course, I need to provide that string in the double quotes, course, and then a course is actually the web development. Okay, when I save it, so now you can see that this request has been implemented. I come down here and I just simply say JSON. When I say JSON, so now it is giving me a JSON object, and this JSON object is the key value pairs. Okay, so I can also say married. We need to put that one here and then say true. I'm a married person, so I can save it. So I can just rerun it, and now you can see that it is giving me all the information about this thing. So this is again, we need to import the Express, install the library first, and then import it, then create a web server. This name which is here, it you can select. It could be app, web app, my app, whatever you want to give the name. This is a variable name, but using that variable name we need to implement that applications. Okay, so we have web app. We are implementing the get method right now because we can only send the get requests from the URL from the browser. But definitely we will see later on in the next lecture that how we can use the postman to send other type of the requests like post or the put or the and then we have the listen method that is actually starting our web server to listen on a specific port. So any request which is coming on the this port number 3030, that will be directed to this program, and then according to the URL, it is going to execute a specific function. If does not exist over there, for example, if I say JSONs, and then press enter, then it say cannot get JSONs. It means that this request has not been implemented. No get request on the URL slash JSONs has been implemented. So when nothing has been implemented, so it will say that there is no request handler exist inside or implemented inside the program. So that is all for this video, and I hope we talk about the index, we send the array, and then we talk about the node mon. So this is the thing that we are going to discuss in next week, how we can source the data from different type of the data sources. More, we will be using the MySQL, but definitely we can look into the other data sources as well. So that is all. Thank you very much. I hope that you have enjoyed. If you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe the channel so that you can get the notification of the new video. And see you next video. Thank you very much.